Hi, I'm Nish from Why Be Aligned. Welcome to Movement Monday, and today we're going to be looking at the glutes. Lots of people have heard the term glutes. It's actually short for the gluteal muscles. There are three different muscles, the maximus, medius, and minimus, and they are basically your bum muscles. I'm not going to get super technical or anatomical here, but just to give you an idea where the glutes are, they run and attach from your pelvis here onto either the femur, which is the thigh bone, or the IT bone, which is a strip that runs outside on the outside of your thigh. So you can have an image of the muscles being from this bone, either onto this bone or onto the thigh. And just keep that in mind for later on. So this is the stage of the video where I tell you what a muscle or bone does, how it moves. But I just want to quickly add in a note here. I'm a big believer that a muscle can't just contract itself or lengthen itself. A muscle needs a joint action to happen, and then its function can kick in. For instance, to give you a separate example, if I want to contract my bicep, I don't try and just physically contract the muscle itself. I would bring my lower arm up to my upper arm, and that would shorten or contract my bicep. Same will be for the glutes. I'm going to show you what the joint movements are that encourage the shortening or lengthening of the glute muscles. Now that we know the location of the glutes and that it is the joints that are going to be giving a reaction to the muscles, i.e. the joint is going to move and the muscle is going to react, let's have a little look through which joint movements are going to do which reaction in the muscle. So if I flex or bend at the hip, this is going to lengthen the glutes. It is bringing this part of the bone away from this, so giving lots of length in that muscle. Whereas if I open or extend my hip at the front, this is shortening the muscle. You can literally see how my glutes have bunched up there and got a lot shorter. So that is our hip motion in our sagittal or side-on plane to lengthen and shorten the muscle. In our frontal or front-on plane, I'm actually going to show you this from behind. In order to give length, think of it more sort of from the pelvis to the outside here, and it will be easier to picture. If I was to bring my leg into the body, then that's going to, or I sort of pop my hip out to the side, that's going to give length to the outside. Also, if I let the other hip lower, and I lift this hip up into the air, again, that is giving length here to the glutes. Whereas if I take my leg out to the side, this is all shortening and contracting. So we've got length and shortening of the muscle in the frontal plane. Then in our twisty, turny, rotational plane, we're going to use sort of the whole thigh bone here, the femur. So if I was to rotate my whole leg inwards, it is making this part travel further away from here. And so I'm getting a lengthening in the muscle. Whereas if I rotate my whole thigh bone outwards, it means this part is all coming here closer towards this part, and therefore we are getting the shortening of the muscle. That is our lengthening and shortening of our glutes in our three planes of motion. Now, with our muscles, a lot of people think of the contraction as being like when the muscle is at its strongest or most activated. However, if you think if a muscle is attaching to two different points, it's working hard to control the movement of that joint. So if I am lengthening the muscle, I'm giving it a real job to do. It has to really activate at its longest to control the joint movement, and it can then spring back, shorten and contract. So with that in mind, we're going to do a hip hinge to really lengthen the glutes in all three planes of movement, and that will then allow them to really come back and contract nicely. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a small step forward, and I'm going to make sure that my tripod of my foot, my big toe knuckle, little toe knuckle and heel are nicely planted onto the floor. I'm going to give that knee a soft bend, and I'm going to really let my weight be stacked over this front leg. The back foot here is more as a sort of kickstand, as a bit of support, but ideally we are actually putting all our weight through this front leg. And we're keeping the knee in that soft bend. I'm going to think about flexing or bending at this hip. And the easiest way to do that is by sending my bum backwards, like I'm trying to touch the wall behind me. And I want you to keep a nice neutral back as you do this, no overarching. We don't want the work to be going through the back. We want it through the glutes. So if I keep my neutral back, and I'm going to see how far towards that wall I can get my bottom while keeping my weight on this front leg. And right about now, all of my glutes are waking up and really kicking off. So they are doing their job of having to control this lengthening, this movement of the hinge. And as I come back up, they're now nicely contracted. Now, to bring my frontal plane and my transverse plane into this movement, again, I take my step forward, I really load into this leg, and I have a soft bend in that knee. And this time, as I send my bum back to try and touch the wall, if I shift my bottom out to the side, that's my frontal plane, all of the outside of the tissue is now loading. So I've got the back of the tissue, the outside. And if I also now give a slight rotation towards my back leg with my pelvis, again, it is stretching. This is that internal rotation of the thigh bone. It doesn't look like it so much here, but internally rotating that thigh bone, pushing the bum out to the side and pushing it back behind you. It's going to really, really load up all your glute tissue. And then you can come up and then slightly tuck under when you come up, and you'll really feel a contraction in the glutes. Now you know more about your glutes. You know where they are, how they lengthen and shorten, what movements activate them, and you've got a great exercise there to help really stimulate, activate those glutes. A lot of people are told they've got weak or sleepy glutes, when actually the glutes are just quite static. We're not really ever fully stretching them out. We're not closing them. Think of a rubber band. When you really stretch it, it will then ping out away from you. Think of the glutes the same way. We're really, really stretching them so they can recoil and shorten. And that's going to help you whether you're into running, playing squash, yoga, going to the gym, or even sitting down into a chair and standing back up. Your glutes are going to be playing a major part in all of those movements and in everyday walking. So they're a key muscle to keep activated. And if you've got one side that's a little bit shorter than the other, or chronically short or chronically long glutes, that's really going to have repercussions throughout the body. As we know, everything is connected. So those are our glutes. Well, thank you for tuning in for this Movement Monday. Hopefully you've learned a good thing or two. And don't forget to subscribe, follow, and look out for next week's Movement Monday.